Bro.
Boom.
But I was talking with Robert this morning, and we were talking about specifically all the information that you have access to, right? And looking at how they're separating people, right? And getting you to believe that like all the information that you need is just on the internet. Like they're going to feed you all the information, right? But the real resources that you need, yeah, there's plenty of information on the internet, but if they're feeding you what they want you to see and then telling you what is and what isn't, that information is not legit. Like that resource is not legit. The real resources are other human beings, other people, right? Because when you connect with other people, then it's first off, it's unfiltered, right? Well, to an extent. But the other thing is, they did these like experiments long ago where they had baby monkeys and they had a surrogate mother, and the surrogate mother was just like a puppet that they made that kind of looked like a monkey. And one of them was basically made of like metal and it was like kind of prickly. And so the monkeys couldn't really hold on to it. And then the other one was also made of metal, but they had like a blanket around it, right? And so when they separated these surrogate mothers into different cages and they introduced the baby monkeys to them, and that's the only mother that they got, right? Well, the one with the blanket cozied up to the blanket and just like, okay, well, this is mom. The one who couldn't really hold on to just the metal frame, basically, that monkey died.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah.
That's a scary story, dude.
But it's just
Drake's how you're telling horror stories, man.
But it just shows you the human connection point that's required.
Exactly.
Now, let's explain that in detail.
Explain
in like
what?
A light detail. Like what is to be learned from that?
Well, I mean, there's so much that we don't know about our own physical bodies, right? And so, like, just the point of like when you have an infant, skin to skin contact is really important, right? And part of that is because there's cultures that live on your skin, right?
30% of human body waste excreted through the skin.
You know how I think it was last episode.
You're shitting on your baby. No, I'm kidding.
You know how we were talking last time? I think it was last time about the transhumanism point.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like, is that point you're making about how the human contact is necessary, right? When you're a baby, you need that human contact. It's like that's a way that we develop and function physiologically, psychologically, all of that. But the idea that you can just take your consciousness and put it into a robot and then you're just going to live forever, it just shows you where the state of even science, the starting point of it is at. Not science as in our techniques, but like the starting point of the people who are doing science and everything.
The industry of science.
Just the people, like the starting point of humanity within science is that what we are is just like the information that exists as like our self-awareness, not our body. That'd be like saying, well, we don't need trees. We can make mechanical analog, of it, and we can extract the soul of the tree and put that into a mechanical tree, and it's going to be just like a tree. And it's like, it's not going to interact with the environment in the same way. It might simulate some aspects of the tree, but there's, like you were saying, there's so much that we're not even aware of. Like you can't even see it. We're not even aware of it yet.
It's super dependent on what we think the purpose or function of something is.
Yeah.
And nobody knows the function of a human being, or nobody really understands it.
That's like, okay, so that transhumanism point that you were just making, as far as like isolating the mind, that's really what they're talking about, right? Isolating the mind from the body.
Right.
And that is huge because there's so much information that is exchanged just from the human body, and like actually believing that you can, like, you don't need that. You can isolate just the mind and that's the human experience. That's so retarded. It's so clear. That's that point of separation that's talked about in Heaven's Journey to Life, where we've separated ourselves once, twice, 1,000 times, so much to the point where we actually believe we're the mind and forget about the whole exchange of information that's going unconsciously to us, right, between the human bodies. And so that's the resource. What I'm talking about is like, yeah, you have access to the internet, to a computer, to a library, whatever, but the real libraries of information are within other beings. Because even if you had all that information, if you never interacted with another being.
That's really interesting. The way you just described that the library of information exists in the human being. And we've just been using online, right, internet as the medium of exchange. But if the medium is only allowing certain things to pass through it, then you're not getting the real aspect of what a human
It's
being.
the digital versus analog, right?
What is it?
Like it's when you look at an analog signal, it goes through like every state when it's going up and down, versus an analog or digital, it's like either on or off. So you lose a lot of the information. You can increase the resolution and so forth, but it's still not the same thing. And that's why like having a relationship with a robot, no matter how lifelike they make it, is not going to be the same thing as another human being. Like
No, so wait, you have to give more context to the analog to digital thing.
No, I don't.
Yeah, like what is that talking about? Are you talking about TV?
No, I just mean generally, just in the context of information itself at a fundamental level, the difference between analog versus digital information.
Where was that applied?
Well, it's applied in everything that goes from analog to digital. So like a synthesizer, like this is an analog synthesizer, right? And then you have digital synthesizers. This is producing the sound by actually oscillating a mechanical device or an electric device. Versus a digital signal, which is purely produced and electronically using an on and off sort of switch. It's like a different fundamental thing. So that's just like at a basic level, but then you also can think of it in a more abstract sense. Like think of someone who their only relationship to sex is pornography or images versus actual sex with a human being. There's a difference. They're not the same, right? I know when I was a young lad, let's say, and I had my proclivities as one might have, but does porn ever leave you satisfied?
No.
Like so I'm not judging anybody or anything like that. I get it, right? Of course, you can go into all of the other dimensional aspects of pornography and all that stuff, but just at the base level of a man needing to discharge, let's say, I understand, but if that's all you ever did, would that really be fulfilling? Because sex is more than just discharging. You know what I mean? In the same sense of, it's like kind of in the same sense of when you go to the grocery store and you get a bunch of this like prepackaged food and you eat that, right? But then when you read the back label, it's like, what the fuck is this stuff made of? So it's like simulating nutrition and food, but what is it missing? Like, there's this really cool guy named his last name is Toll. I think it's Tolle or Toll. I can't remember, and I don't remember his first name.
Eckhart?
Definitely not Eckhart.
It's not that guy. It's this like real cowboy looking guy with like a big beard, like a beard, and he wears like cowboy hats, but he's like sort of a like
Definitely
sort of
Eckhart.
No, it's not him. But he talks about like food and the way food interacts with the body. It's like kind of like a health guy or something, but he talks about food and so forth. And when I was doing like juice fasting many years ago, I was studying some of his stuff. But he was going into, for example, like cauliflower, if you slice it in half, it looks like the human brain, or, you know, like a Brussels sprout. If you cut it in half, it looks like the ear and it actually has these chemicals that are good for your ears and whatever it was. I'm just making it like, if you slice a carrot in half, like not long ways, but short ways, what does it look like? It looks like an eye.
Oh,
your eyes. Like, so he was just showing like there's these things in nature that in a way almost signal to us, hey, I'm good for you for this or something, you know, like we didn't create that.
That's
you know what I mean? Like we didn't understand any of that. And so if you're like, I'm just going to extract all the beta carotene and take those pills. What about all the other parts of the carrot that are also
synthetic meat?
interacting with like the other parts of yourselves that you didn't even know about that was important, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mitchell, what were you saying?
What about I mean, Bill Gates is like synthetic meat, that whole thing. I mean,
Right.
that couldn't be bad for you.
Right. It's like, so what about real meat? Is there's aspects to it that you're not aware of, right? That actually is also beneficial. And if you extract only the parts that you're aware of, and you're like, perfect example is formula versus breast milk,
Yeah.
right? You guys have seen my kids. Why are my kids so fucking tall? And
Yeah,
like
Max is
and like
a-
sturdy, you know what I mean? Like Seneca's really thin because she's like my mom. She's more like got that thin, like delicate frame, but
Yeah.
she's strong and she's like stable physically, and she's tall for her age. And same with Max. I mean, I saw Max the other day at the playground playing with a 6-year-old, and they were the same
He
height.
just picked him up and just spun him over his head.
There's- well,
Like, you need to buy Techno Tutor.
But no, that's true. Max, I remember when I saw him at in New Orleans, he was like 1 year old. I have a video of you. We're all sitting at some restaurant, and you're going like, and he's laughing. This kid is like fucking huge, like fucking massive, right? And every single person who sees Max is like, wait, how old is he? Like,
yeah.
that is not cognitively and physically. It doesn't make any sense.
And he always says to the person, he goes, I'm only 4.5, but people think I'm 6.
No,
But the thing is, I just want to be clear. We never gave him any formula. It was all breastfeeding. Like,
and when he was born,
my man's,
Chest
Chest milk.
Chest milk.
I had to put that joke in there, but yeah.
and when he was
Seriously,
born,
I am not joking. Like both of them were breastfed. Even Seneca just recently is not doing breastfeeding anymore. It's like in rare occasions. So we started with them on solid foods at a certain point. So it's not like she was only breastfeeding until now, right? But what I'm saying is they never did any formula, none of that stuff. And it's like, well, Katie must have had to like pump her breast milk? No. Well, how did she go to work? She didn't go to work. She didn't have a job. Like she stays at home with the kids. Like, oh, it must be so lucky. And actually, I was thinking about making this post earlier, but I didn't know how to word it to give all the context. And I was like imagining someone saying like, because people say this, right? It's like, I might say, you really shouldn't put your kids in daycare because it's gonna like fuck them over and everything, right? And they're like, oh, well, that must be nice for you. Oh no. Here's the premise. Like, what is an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is somebody who takes risk, right? Takes the financial risk, right, of an endeavor. And the person says, well, I don't want to do that. I want the security, right?
Yeah.
I want the security. So I need to go to work so I have that security. And then it comes up where it's like, well, now what do I do with my kids? Because now I have kids and I can't go to work. So I got to put them in daycare. And I'm saying, hey, daycare isn't best for your kids. And they're saying, oh, well, it must be nice for you. You're so lucky you don't have to work. And it's like, but I didn't go for the security part.
Right.
I went for the risk part. So now I've created something for myself to a certain degree so far where I can do that. I don't have to be somewhere. And my wife doesn't have to be somewhere at work where literally they can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just that the person's not willing to do what's required. Plus, as we know, they don't have the vocabulary, but we have the solution for that. So I can understand if anybody else were to say like, well, you don't want to take the risk, or you don't want to do this, or you don't think like an entrepreneur. Yeah, it's not possible because you don't have the vocabulary, but we have the solution to that. So it's no longer an excuse. Doesn't mean you have to like right away cut all your ties to your job and just, go right after it. Like you could take some time to do that and build it up. That's okay. But the point is you don't have an excuse if you're hearing this.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just fascinating to me because people, they don't really want to consider what's actually best. Oh, another thing too, I want to throw this in there. What do you guys hear this? I know we might've talked about this before, but you ever hear this statement? They talk about unpaid work. And like, it's like kind of in the whole social justice sphere where they're saying like women don't get paid the same as men. And also there's a lot of unpaid work that women do. Like they have to work in the home and they have to raise children. It's all this unpaid work. Right. And they use that term.
Yeah.
And it's like programming people to be like resistant to the idea of unpaid work.
Right.
Like I should have a better wage. I shouldn't have to do this unpaid work. But all of us are entrepreneurs. You have to do a lot of work you didn't get directly a paycheck for.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like before I found Techno Tutor, I was really into cooking. Like would just obsess over different chefs and everything. It is a huge thing to in the chef industry, in the cooking industry, in the culinary industry to work for a chef that you like unpaid for sometimes for years.
In every
know?
industry.
Yeah. Where you're doing shit that is like menial tasks. You're fucking sweeping the ground. You're chopping vegetables, but like it's all this stuff that like nobody else wants to do. Right. But you do this, even if you watch any chef that is like, yo, you gotta like this is the chef. If you watch any of those chefs, there's a Netflix special, Hero Dreams of Sushi, right?
Oh yeah, that's a cool one.
Right? You watch, he has apprentices where they're fucking making eggs for 2 years, just learning to make eggs in the proper way. Right? Like, and oftentimes you don't get paid for any of this stuff at all. And you are happy about it because you're just happy to be in that kitchen because you have the opportunity to learn from that chef. And then that's going to give you the opportunity to actually create in a real way.
Like, wouldn't it be amazing if we didn't have to do it? Like, you could literally just go study that and not have to worry about your survival.
Right.
So we're not saying that that's the best way to do it, but that is the reality currently. Now, I wouldn't suggest you go fucking be a sushi chef. Like, it's really in the grand scheme of things at the moment, not the priority point. Like, it's not that important.
Let me just cross that off my to-do list. Fuck.
You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's like, but I really just want to, like, I mean, whatever. But that being said, if you want to implement real solutions in this world to solve the problem so people can go pursue those passions and become amazing sushi chefs and we can all benefit from that and they don't have to worry about the stress of survival, which, by the way, doesn't help. Now, these people who are trying to justify the system who are like, well, it's part of that struggle that really makes you really. No, that's
problems. Then
that's only because it's a competitive system. And so that's like a built-in program so that only one person can succeed, all this bullshit. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if there was 1,000 Gordon Ramsays?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
think how many cool meals we could literally eat an awesome freaking meal every day for the rest of your life.
And someone says, well, but Gordon Ramsay didn't have it handed to him. He had to work hard. Of course, there's going to be work. I'm not saying it should be easy. That's not the point. But the point is the other part that eliminates why there aren't 1,000 Jordan Ramsays who were working just as hard, but they couldn't. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't.
In fact, there's no Jordan Ramsay.
What's that?
You said Jordan Ramsay.
Jordan. It's a parallel universe. There was a Jordan Ramsay. There was a Jordan Ramsay. There was a Fjorden Ramsay in Norway. You guys never heard about him, right?
Right.
But you know what? It's a really good point because what's the one of the big reasons why people don't end up doing process?
They don't have time.
Exactly.
Well, they make the excuse they don't have time.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Which is also the reason why the poorer people have it even harder.
Yeah. Because they don't have money. Money is time. Time is money.
Right.
So what Cameron's talking about is like things that are hard are not going to become easy. They become possible. But it's impossible when you're in the consequence of not being educated effectively. So now you have some kids and you have a partner and you have a loan, student debt, mortgage. You're not getting paid enough. All that stuff. It's like culminated into, you actually did not create space and time for yourself. But so in the world that we live in today, for the people listening to this, it's your responsibility now. We want to make it so that you have the time and the space and the freedom, and the people beyond us, the other people in the world, the people who are going to come after us. And this is a really good point that me and Cameron were talking about, I think yesterday. We shouldn't have, and when I say shouldn't have, I just mean in the context of what would make sense. We shouldn't have anything that we're not willing to provide for other people. So in other words, we want freedom. Okay, are you willing to implement a system that provides freedom for everybody? If not, then don't be upset that this system doesn't provide freedom for you, because you're the same person who's not willing to do that for other people. So you're kind of the asshole. And that's why all judgment is self-judgment. Everyone is just utilizing the same thinking that you are. But you're blaming them and they're blaming you and all that shit, right? But obviously you don't experience that because no one's really doing that on like a one-to-one basis, right? It's just like, it's not my fault that I can't do that. You're so lucky that you can do this and blah, blah, blah. Right? It's like, I made decisions to take responsibility because of the things I gotten exposed to. Here are the tools. I don't have time to do that. Okay, well, so there's this thing about can everyone be a millionaire? Can every single person on the planet right now be a millionaire?
In the current context, no.
No. Why?
Because the system is not designed for it. There's not enough money in circulation. Well, there might be, but the way
But
it's set up.
Can you talk about that a little bit, about why it cannot be that way? Because a lot of people think, just, replace the people at the top, all that stuff. Like, talk about the
Hold on,
current
but think about
structure.
it. How can everybody who currently has money, who's more than a millionaire, keep what they have, and then everybody else who doesn't is also a millionaire?
Right.
How would that be practical?
Right. Because
so if the idea is, we just redistribute it, then it's possible. What's the likelihood you think of that happening? And what's fascinating is that redistribution of wealth idea, where does it come from?
Communism.
It comes from the fucking elite.
The rich people. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
They want to redistribute their wealth, actually. So anytime you're like, well, but we should redistribute the rich people's wealth, like, realize a rich person programmed you to think that way. Why would they do that? So we're not talking about redistributing wealth. We're talking about redefining what's the value of money.
So this point, it took me some time to process, because I would hear, we live in a system of lack. Right? We live in a system of lack. What does that mean? We've not arbitrarily per se, like it was done purposefully, but as in it's not, it doesn't have to be this way. You can change that. That's why you're saying the value of money. We've made it so that money is limited, so that there's not enough to go around, so that I can have something that you don't and control you. So to think that the solution is anything other than what we're saying, not that we came up with it, what we're sharing, right? The things that we've come to understand for ourselves of, oh, okay, yeah, there's no way that everybody can be a millionaire. And even being a millionaire is not great. You know what I mean? Like, if you made $1 million, it's like, okay, what are you going to do in 10 years from now? What are you going to do in 20 years from now?
It's not solving the problem. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, definitely not everybody can be a billionaire. So it's like, if you're coming to any other conclusion, then, it's the system that we're participating in that says we don't have enough food, we don't have enough money, we have to give people equal resources to compete on the same level playing field, right? But it's down here. It's like, imagine we gave everyone all the tools that they need to be creative. But that would create something that can't exist in this system. So people will go into, oh man, the food industry is so fucked up. I want to, it's best for all to not eat meat. Anybody ever hear that one?
Mm-hmm.
Like, being vegan?
Yeah.
Is like what is best.
Yeah.
What do you guys say to that?
It's just that's what you think when you haven't had enough meat in your diet. Hey, but I want to add this real quick. I was just looking up while you're talking, can everyone be a millionaire on Google, just to see what people are saying? You're going to love this answer. If everyone is rich, then no one is really rich. Everyone would be considered average. Okay, this sounds like some retard wrote this, but okay. But there's a point behind it, right? Like, I see their point, because they're saying, well, if everybody was rich, there wouldn't be any rich. Everyone would be rich, so it would be average, right? But it kind of contradicts their next point, because then it says, also, if everyone had, say, $1 million, then the value of the US dollar would plummet and it would be almost worthless. This causes an economic crash and people will lose jobs, and the Great Depression too might happen. I don't know who fucking wrote that, but look, that's if I type in, can everyone be a millionaire on Google? And then I just scroll down to like where it says people who ask, and it gives the questions, and then that's the first answer that pops up. So it's like one of the top 2 things you would see on Google, which I know no one is claiming it to be the definitive source of information, but that's where people like this point you guys were making earlier. That's what people turn to. They go to the internet and they read this and then they go, oh, and then the average person who can't really process reads that and goes, yeah, okay, yeah, everyone couldn't be rich. Okay, that makes sense.
Hey,
That's what Google is saying.
Yeah, going back to that digital analog thing, I was just reading an article over the weekend, and the article was basically saying, it was asking the question, is Google making us dumb? Right.
Huh.
And it was asking this question from the starting point of all these scholarly people like were interviewed about their reading habits. And they were saying in the past, they were voracious readers, loved to read. They would absorb all this information and everything. But now in the digital age, getting information is so easy that instead of spending time with one book or a few books and contemplating what you've read, now they just like, it's just constant feed of information, and it's just constant analyzing things and constant. And so it breaks down actually the process of sitting with the information, processing that information. Actually, instead, now people are just like reading titles. Okay, I got what I needed out of that. And then they continue to the next thing because there's a constant flow of information. So they have to feel like they have to keep up, etc. Right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Right. And then, just, it's really like, you can't distill things in that way. The point that you were making with medicines, you take something from the plant life that this plant has healing properties, whatever it is, right? But then you distill what you think is the one thing that's healing everything. And then once you just take that one thing, then it's all out of balance with all the other elements that come with it, all the other nutrients that come with it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You're not considering the whole point.
Right. And that's like one of the big challenges with medicine in general is that there's all these specialties where they isolate this part of the body, or this is like, oh, you have this disease that only affects your kidney or whatever, but it's a whole working system. It's a whole body. And so then they try to fix this one thing and it fucks up everything else.
That's why there's so many side effects to everything.
Yes. Yeah.
They're looking at things in isolation, right?
Right.
Hey, I sent you guys this link on here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Cameron, what the heck, man? Why are you sharing that? No, I'm just kidding.
All right. So this one says, what would happen if everyone became a millionaire? And I think this is really important because when you see the point, it'll click, right? It says, initially there would be an economic collapse followed by a reversion to a new status quo.
Wait, where are you reading that?
I sent it in the chat window.
No, I'm looking at the article. Like I'm looking at
It's the very first thing that comes up.
Yeah, it's the first one.
The physician at TriHealth.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a different one that comes up.
He's a physician. So how
Really? Yours is different?
Yeah, it's a different first answer.
Really? This
Maybe
one's
you're in
Rick
Canada.
Vonderbrink.
Yeah.
So what's the person's name?
John Cora.
Rick Vonderbrink.
Yeah.
I think
Okay, now I see it. I have to scroll down, but now I see it. Yeah.
it says, imagine your life on the day after you became a millionaire. The first thing you do is call in to work to quit because you don't need to work anymore. No one picks up the phone, so you leave a message. You decide to go to your favorite coffee shop, as you would. The doors are closed and locked because the manager and the baristas all woke up millionaires and decided that they didn't need to serve coffee for minimum wage anymore. Your car is low on gas, but the gas station is closed as well. And even if they had been open, the truck that delivers the gas to them didn't show up anyway. By now, you're getting hungry. You drive past a bunch of restaurants, all of them closed. Finally, you find a little family-owned donut shop that is open and crowded. You wait in line until you can order. You get 2 glazed donuts and some coffee. The guy at the counter says, that will be $500. You spit out your mouthful of coffee and only then notice the prices posted on the wall, all of which are in 3 figures. You complain, but the guy shrugs and says, like, I'm going to get out of bed to sell $1 donuts. Besides, my supplier is charging $250 for a bag of flour and some eggs. The value of money, here it is. You see it?
Oh.
The value of money is based on relative scarcity. You can't go out and pick dollar bills off trees. To get one, you have to convince someone else to give you one. To do that, you have to provide a good or service that the other person finds useful. And the amount of dollars they give you will depend on how useful that good or service is to them and how hard it is to get it otherwise. The amount you will accept depends on how valuable that good or service is to you. A millionaire is not going to spend all day making donuts or serving coffee or growing wheat for flour if they're only going to get a few bucks for their time or for it. Their time and services become more valuable to them and harder to get. When everyone is rich, then money becomes worth a lot less. So the millionaire world would teeter on the edge of collapse. It might go over, or in a few days, it might settle out into a new normal of $500 donuts.
Wow.
This guy's like, yep.
Wow, but even just within that first paragraph, like the very first beginning of this story, very first beginning, there's like, it's basically setting it up for the reason why we have money is for slavery.
That's what I saw too. First point. Yeah.
Very first point. Like we require slaves. And so this is why we have it this way.
But that's why, like, when we say the system requires slavery, you can see it. Like, this is Quora. This is like the average person or anybody can come on there and be the expert and give their answers and people can vote on it and everything. This is like, instead of thinking of it as this person's answer, think of it as the mind's answer.
This is consciousness's answer.
This is the system telling you the answer that it wants you to know.
This is consciousness's
answer, right?
Yeah.
And so that point you said is it's perfect because it's making it like the purpose of money is to keep people making the donuts. Because if everyone was a millionaire, then donuts would just cost. And I like how the guy says, well, I ain't going to come in here to make $1 donuts. What do you think I am? Worth nothing? But you're still just making donuts.
Yeah.
You're still just making a donut. It's not like you're physically doing anything different. Right?
Like, I'll do the $500 donuts.
So it's like, can you see though, like the person answering the question, it's not to dunk on them or something, but it's like they have no imagination, do they? Their imagination is totally shaped by the system because they can't even say what we're saying, which is okay. But when we say if everyone was a millionaire and we say it's not possible, of course, that's why we were exactly what we were saying. But what do we really mean for everyone to be a millionaire? Really, if we were saying, hey, we want everyone to be a millionaire, we're not saying in the current system, keeping everything the same, we just want everyone to have $1 million, because clearly that would not work. And here's a perfect example. I'm not saying if everyone had $1 million today, it would work. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Given the current rules of the system, everyone cannot be a millionaire. That doesn't mean everyone can't be a millionaire. It means in the current rules of the current system, everyone can't be a millionaire. So if I'm saying everyone can be a millionaire, what does that imply?
Gotta change the system.
You can change the system. You can change the rules.
You know,
and like this point it said here, the value of money is based on relative scarcity. When you said, who was it? Asked if you said it's a system is based on lack. Isn't that what that's saying? Scarcity, lack. It means there's a lack of money. It's scarce,
and it has to be
value.
It has to be compared to the other people.
Well, exactly.
Relative scare. Yeah.
But it's like, what gives life value?
Hang on, because
Black.
No, but it does it actually. Is that what
what
the value is in a tree? Is that there's not much of it?
no.
The value is what it gives.
But isn't that how we kind of treat like animals that are going extinct? We're like, oh shit, we got to protect this one.
Yeah, but we're doing that, and we're also the ones causing it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, what's the value of the air? Which is more important, the air or a Ferrari?
Well, dude, if everybody had air, then it wouldn't be valuable anymore.
It's like, so what you're saying is you wouldn't pay money for it unless you didn't have much of it. And you'd be willing to pay money for it. But all that shows is the way we define money is based on the lack of something. So that's not actually what determines real value in reality. It's only how we determine the value of money based on what we decided to do. But it's not how you actually determine things are valuable.
So I have another way of saying everyone can be a millionaire. We can end slavery. That's it.
What the fuck, dude? Then nobody's gonna do anything. You're fucking
Spills.
idiot. No, dude, no, nobody's gonna
Hold
do
on.
anything.
If nobody was a slave, all that would happen is we would have a bunch of free men who would end up being slaves.
Yeah.
And it's
The value
so-
of slavery would plummet. And how can we live in a world as this?
and it's like, wait a second, aren't you a slave? They're like, yes, I'm completely happy with my slave work, and I want to
We
remain
can't end
as such."
slavery because everyone would be a slave.
So
What do you have to lose? Like, Jesus Christ.
you know that audio from Bernard, "To love is to give."
Real love is to give.
Yeah.
Yeah. I posted it the other day on a comment.
It was, yeah, and it's really, really good because he talks about this point of like, okay, it's to truly give. Like all the things that people pray to God for, we can actually create that here.
Yeah.
Hold on, real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Okay, but it has to be like really quick, dude.
it's just really, it's like, okay, I'm done. No, this is an important point, because when you say give, okay, I'm not saying you're implying this, but when someone hears the word
Right.
give, what do they immediately think? Like
Out
real-
of my pocket into
yes,
your pocket.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because someone will say, well, but I'm a charitable person. I give to the homeless person, right? The only reason that's meaningless is because you have and they don't have. And why is it a meaningful point? Yeah, your levels are good. Why is it a meaningful point? Because you're giving something that you need, which is defined value based on lack, which is the money, right?
Mhm.
That's why the person is feeling like they're charitable, because they're giving something that is limited, that they're like, well, I'm sacrificing. It's like everyone learned this from Jesus, right? It's like, I learned it from you, Dad. You know, he's like, if you don't sacrifice yourself, you're not loving anybody. And it's like, no. Like if I had a billion apples and I could never eat all the apples, and no matter how many apples I gave away, I would still have more apples. If someone was hungry and I gave them that apple, wouldn't it still be valuable?
Yeah.
What would it have to do with the fact that I have plenty of apples or I don't have a lot of apples?
Mhm.
And then you'd say, well, but that person would give anything for that apple because they're so hungry. Okay. What would they give for it? What would they give me that I would need?
So you need some bananas, dog,
Right? Like, oh, they would give me money
or BJ. What?
or BJ or their PJs.
Yeah, exactly. Literally peanut butter and jam.
But it's like, if everybody had everything they needed, would anybody ever give? Wouldn't you, in fact, like,
That's a yeah.
okay, like if we're hanging out and we're having a good time, we're giving to each other.
Yeah.
A potluck, dog.
You're not like, oh man, I love hanging out with you, Cameron, because there's only one of you. And if you were to die, I would fucking kill myself. You're like, I enjoy being around you. Like, it's not like I enjoy being around you because there's only one of you and there's no one else. Like if there was two of me and I was there and then the other person was there, would you be like,
Double the fun, bro.
oh, this is not that great anymore. There's two of you. Like, I could get this from another person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
Could you
want
guys
my-
imagine two Camerons? That'd be so funny.
Oh.
That'd be the best. They're
Cameron
just
had
like,
a-
Crazy.
like my kids, right? I don't want them to like me because there's only one of me. I want them to like me if I want them to like me at all, it's because when they're with me, I'm doing what's best for them. So you see how we're like redefining what it means to give. And then it removes it out of the point of charity. And then we have to take it to the level of, and we've talked about this before, but creating a system where that giving is automatic. Like, so in that example I gave with the apples, even if I had an abundance of apples, the problem is, why does this person not already have some apples? Why are they starving in the first place? If it's not just me in the situation, but we're all looking at this point, why don't we create a system where nobody ever needs anything? Like, there's never a point where they're in lack. It's already like their shipment of apples already came that month. Like, why the fuck were they like, oh, I'm so hungry, I'm about to die. Oh, the apple. Oh, okay, I'm alive now. Like, why would it ever have to get to that point?
Yeah.
Like we just had here in Texas over the past week or so, we didn't have any power. We didn't have any running water. A lot of people, because their pipes burst and we weren't expecting all this and everything. And it's like, we need to create a system where that never has to happen to anybody ever, anywhere, in any context for anything that they need. And it's funny because people will act like well, that's just the way things are in the world. Like, there's people who are starving and what's what it is, and God and everything. But the moment your power goes out, You're like, oh, the fucking mayor and these idiots and, blah, 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 and Ted Cruz and Green New Deal and all this shit. And you're like, no. God did that to you because he doesn't love you. You are giving the world a chance to experience compassion. Like whatever the fucking excuse you were making,
Yeah.
your karma just came back to you. You know what I'm saying? Like you created that. So why don't we just solve the problem for everybody and stop making excuses?
Yeah, it's such a limit of imagination, because I remember the first time starting to hear a lot of these ideas, I was like, but it was right when I got exposed to Technotutor. So I started to realize, okay, I may not fully understand how we could get everyone's needs met, but good thing I can learn anything with this tool. So then I started to use that. And then it was like all of a sudden I had this newfound love for like understanding supply chains and logistics and operations of a business.
Right.
I was like, oh shit, like we could actually really repurpose something like Amazon and drone delivery so that every kid, and we could figure out like what nutrients does a child need to develop their brain. I was like, oh damn, then you get like an army of these people, like, you know, people working on this.
Somebody
That's
might
cool.
say
That's really
like,
cool.
somebody
That's really
might say
cool.
like, oh, you can't you repurpose Amazon. Like, oh, you're socialist, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I guarantee if you go and look at it, Amazon and Jeff Bezos donated $50 million to fucking Black Lives Matter or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So clearly, you know, they would pretend like they're interested in social justice. And we're saying, let's not do it to some bullshit, because Amazon could still operate and then make sure everybody gets what they need. If everyone had enough money and they paid for the things that they needed and then they came on time, what would be the problem there? People would say, oh, but then there's be inflation and the money would be worth it. They charge $1 million a thing. Okay, print more money. But then the prices would go up, print more money. What's the problem with that? What, let me ask you guys, like, I'm really trying to understand what's the problem. Someone say, oh, you fucking idiot. Like, you don't even understand basic economics. Like, dude, I took economics at the United States Air Force Academy, like one of the top engineering schools in the country. Okay. I'm a smart person. It doesn't actually make sense. It doesn't actually make sense. It's arbitrary. Like someone said earlier, it's fucking arbitrary rules based on how we've defined our assumptions. It's like, okay, let me ask you guys a question. Do all the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees?
Yes.
They're supposed to, yeah.
Right? Of course, right? No, they don't. If you took a point in China and then you took another point in the United States, and you took another point in the South Pole, and you made a triangle out of that, would those angles add up to 180 degrees?
No.
Why not?
Because it's on a curved surface.
Right. So the assumption,
Shit, dude. Holy
Wait,
fuck.
hold on, bro. What about
Flat
flat Earth?
Earth.
oh boy.
Hologram Earth. Yeah, but what's your point though, Cam?
My point though is that the assumption was that it's flat.
Yeah,
Right.
2D surface. Yeah.
So okay, I know the Earth is flat, everybody. Okay. It's like someone say, is the Earth flat or is it round? And I remember that somebody asked that on the Destiny forum, and they were like, well, first of all, you have to understand how holographics works, right? So in other words, it's not anything of what you can fucking understand. Okay.
Oh shit, dude.
But the point is, it's the assumptions that you make that are going to define what's possible. So if you're in Euclidean geometry where things are flat, then yes, that is true. But even within Euclidean geometry, you have the parallel postulate, because they couldn't internally prove that there's only one line that's parallel to another line that's parallel to one line that goes through the same point, or whatever the fucking thing is. You can look it up. What I'm saying is, even they have to go, well, let's just make an arbitrary decision here. Yes, there can only be one line that's parallel that goes through that point. Or no, there can be multiple, and that's how you get to other geometries. So you get to new results by making a new assumption at a certain point. So if we make a new assumption, which is money, the value of it is not relative scarcity, but it's the value of life, which is what's best for all, which means it's the value of everyone having what they need. That's the value of money. Then suddenly, does inflation even enter the fucking picture?
Mhm.
It only enters the picture if you're defining it as based on its value based on relative scarcity. So yeah, if you don't question those assumptions, then I sound like an idiot, because like, oh, you don't understand basic economics. No, I don't understand basic brainwashing of the economics of the elite to keep everyone a fucking slave. I don't understand that.
You know, what's interesting about that comparison that you made with the Euclidean geometry and with economics, they're both based on like theories, like concepts, like their Euclidean geometry is like, that doesn't actually exist anywhere in nature. It can only exist in your mind or on a piece of paper, right? But it's not real. And so it's not based on reality in the same way as our economics.
You know, it's funny you bring that up, because I remember when I was in high school, I took this class in philosophy, right? And we went through like the beginning, you know, and I know it's just an exercise in white supremacy. I understand everybody. There have been lots of
check your
philosophers
privilege.
around the country. However, I went to a Catholic school where they were trying to indoctrinate us with white privilege and all this bullshit, right? So forgive me, all right? But they started with Democritus, right? And he's a Greek philosopher. He thought about atoms. You know, they started with all the fucking guys, right? They get to Aristotle, they go to Plato and so forth, right? And the interesting thing about Plato is he says, okay, think about a triangle, right? And just the point you just made, he's like, can you ever actually have a real actual triangle in reality, in physical reality? No, because the way we've conceived of it, it's like the lines are perfect, right? You can't have a perfectly straight line in reality because it's an abstract concept. It's the distance between two abstract points, right? Okay. So if you can't, then a triangle can't exist in physical reality, right?
Right.
Okay. So where does the real ideal triangle, where does that exist?
Only in your mind.
Oh
Yes,
shit,
but it's
dude.
in another reality, which is the ideal reality. So there's the physical reality, there's the material world, and then there's the ideal abstract reality. Okay. And that, my friends, is the real reality. Because that's where perfect triangles exist and perfect circles exist. And everything that we see is like the shadow of one of these things. It's an imperfect example of these ideal abstract concepts. Therefore, the real world, this is not the real world. The real world is this abstract realm, right? Which, if you think about where that leads, like, isn't that like if you were a computer program trying to convince a physical body to like do your fucking bidding to mine abstract energy for itself to continue existing because it doesn't have a physical reality to it? Isn't that like you would get into like one really with this one body who's like really good at communicating and stuff and be like, all right, tell them all this.
Yeah.
Let's get everybody to believe this. And everyone's like, oh fuck yeah, Plato, man, like seriously. And like seriously.
That's that point of like separation in another dimension of separation, where it's like we've separated ourselves from the physical body. Now we're separating ourselves from this reality and separating ourselves from, no, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. And, you know, so on and so forth. I'm not black, I'm white, or I'm white, I'm black, whatever. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on in philosophy, they go, hey, there's this problem in philosophy called the mind body problem. And we can't figure out how to bridge the gap between the physical material world and the spiritual idea world. There's like, what's the connection between the two? It's like, there is no disconnection. The abstract world is just a function of the physical world. It's when you think the other one is real. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The physical world is real. And then within the physical, we can abstract things. That doesn't make them go into some other dimension.
That's like how do we get that projection on the wall? How do we connect that with the projector? There's a disconnect here. It's like how do I get that world in there?
Yeah, it's your mind is looking at and interpreting a pattern.
Yeah.
But then imagine that the pattern is the real world.
Yeah.
Right. That's not. In fact, man, if you guys haven't, I think I told you about this book I read recently called Permutation City. Mm-hmm. I kind of tried to explain it to you guys other thing, but it like didn't make any sense what I said. But I really recommend people to read it because in there he tries to argue, it's a science fiction book, but he tries to kind of create this idea that like you can transfer yourself as a computer into a digital format, which then can live forever, even if there's no physical world, because it's just a pattern. And the pattern you have to read the book to understand it, right? But it's like I see in so many cases where this thinking pervades human beings, where we then can't solve physical problems because we're so focused on trying to get to some thing that's not real that we literally made up with our minds. Like we abused the mind to ignore the physical. The physical exists. The mind is a product of that. And then we're using that to try and convince ourselves that the physical reality isn't real, where that's where we came from in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. And you see, if you don't consider this, then you stop caring about everyone having their basic needs met, because you start convincing yourself there's a better place. But who does that actually benefit for you and I to think like that is the people who are actually benefiting right now, really,
From
the
reality.
world being the way it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one's really ultimately benefiting now. And that's what we see as evident, everything's starting to collapse. So now that's why you see now the elite are pulling out. Guys, come on. Whenever I don't know why I feel the urge to do this. As if his mind.
You guys are beating me in the game. You guys have multiple points.
Put your fist up, Mitch, or else you're gonna
Whatever you
get
do,
booted.
please do not flash a swastika. Okay.
You're gonna get booted if you don't put your fist up, Mitch.
Don't do it. Don't succumb to the pressure.
Do it.
It's funny though, because okay, let's talk about this symbol real quick. Why is that the symbol? Why is that the symbol of the revolution?
Because you fist people right up their ass, and then their asshole never goes back to the same size.
Oh, an asshole stretched beyond its original capacity and can never return to its original tightness.
It's the same thing as dream building. You gotta stretch the elasticity of your butthole until it can't go back.
I remember learning that principle. Yeah.
I think I just figured out the name for this episode.
No. The name for this episode is The Big Lie. And this is the big fucking lie. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the true measure of brainwashing is if you believe that scarcity is real. That's the worst of it.
Hmm.
What do you think, Mitch? I heard that consideration side, dude.
It was like,
I mean, I remember doing the calculations and learning that you could fit the entire population of the world, where everyone has like a quarter acre of land, all in Australia.
But how many people like math? You
Well,
see what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah, exactly. But like, have you ever flown on an airplane, like a 2-hour trip? You're like, there is so much fucking land.
100%.
There is so much land out here, and you can grow food pretty much anywhere. I mean, obviously you have like the different climate zones and stuff, but it's like people are just so freaking brainwashed. There was that, you guys know that Mouse Utopia thing? Is that Owen Benjamin? Well, I probably shouldn't say his name on here. We'll get banned. But
there we go. There we go.
But he explains like Mouse Utopia was this experiment that they did, and they fit a bunch of mice into this environment where it was like very close quarters. And
I'm just trying to balance out you saying.
Thank you.
No one can see it. I think what kind of view, like when somebody watches the podcast, do they see everybody or
Yeah, they see everyone.
Yeah.
okay. I don't
But
know.
for those of you listening, make sure you just, as Mitch talks about what he's about to talk about, just have your fist in the air to contrast the political.
To be able to really,
incorrect.
it's like an antenna, and you can receive.
No, guys, they're trying to fist God.
Oh, dude.
To stretch God out.
Yeah, but is God a male butthole or okay? Anyways,
Neither, Asif.
okay.
Both and neither. So
They.
Mouse Utopia is where
Hi, I'm God. He, they.
God, I God. So they're all these mice are in close quarters, and then this scientist studied them, and they were fascinated to see just the different like social hierarchies that would form. The mice would like start fighting each other and attacking each other. Basically, ends up getting to the point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but where they all end up dying.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
It's like the population gets to a certain point and then just collapses and they all die. Yeah.
Yes. So the parallel was made to what it's like to live in cities, and how you're all stacked on top of each other, and all these hierarchies form and all these dynamics until it hits a certain point where it all just collapses. And as someone who has lived in multiple cities around the world, where I remember like going into New York City, for example, at like 7 a.m., the whole rush, everything's happening, and you walk past an entire homeless family sleeping on a cardboard box in the subway where they're at. And it's like, it desensitizes you.
I just don't understand why they would attract that to themselves. So weird.
Yeah, they really need to listen to the law of attraction training. I should have just walked around with a bunch of the secret books and said, hey, just read this book. Can't you read? And so that's what happens though. And to Asif's point of like, this is the height of brainwashing, is that when you're in such close quarters, or you don't actually understand how reality works, you just buy into this illusion of like, yeah, we're overpopulated, like there's too much going on. There's no way we could ever possibly create a world where we could fully trust our neighbors. And you give us
I
one
see what you're saying. Like if you're in a cramped city where everybody's a fucking asshole, you're like, God, you know what I mean? Like you imagine that that's got to be like everywhere. And most of those people probably never even leave the city. I'm sure the vast majority of people never leave the city.
Yeah. Or even, it's crazy. The amount of friends I had in New York that didn't even have driver's license. They're like, yeah, we just, don't use them. I'm like, wow. Like, so you literally, it's not even an option to like, oh, I'm just going to go like drive to upstate New York or something.
Right. Oh, I see.
So it's like, imagine living that, seeing that every single day over and over at a certain point. But at the same time, these are the same people that went to church and prayed to Jesus, where Jesus's message was give as you would like to receive. But then you walk past.
But they couldn't process it because the elite, those who are in positions to run the system have that vocabulary. So from their perspective, like if you're a CEO of a company, you understand how to run a system. Like you have different departments, you've got all these different points, right?
Mm.
If you're a person who works as an employee, like and not like a manager even, but just like a normal like employee, you don't know how to run shit most likely. You don't know how to run a system. You might have a group of people that are kind of you're responsible for something, but you don't know how to run a whole fucking system. So how can the average person look at the situation and go, oh, okay, we just need to change the system? Because they wouldn't even know how to they wouldn't even know it's a possibility. Like, oh, you can change a system. And a lot of times people go, what system? What system are you talking about? What's the system? What's the system you're talking about? You think there's a system?
Like a conspiracy theory.
There's a system? I'm like, the fuck? Like, do you think it's some food magically falls out of the sky? Like there's no system?
Well, because the concept that we usually first hear the system in is some like aluminum foil capped, like the system. And we think it's like something very, very, very particular that's in some movie. Rather than realizing like everything's a fucking system. He's right, exactly.
Like your body's a system.
Exactly. Just understanding the word system.
Your house is a system. Like everything is systems.
And that's something we talked about on the Global Hangout yesterday, is like understanding a system and kind of applying, getting to the concept of something rather than being like, yeah, but that's not this. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying a system. Right. Mitchell, what were you going to say?
Well, I remember the first time someone exposed me to a book called Systems Thinking by Joseph something, I forget his name, something like that. But he gave me the book. He said, yeah, my family friend works in the government, and apparently every year they all like reread this book, because in a government position of authority, like you need to like be able to comprehend things on a systematic level. And I remember reading this book and being like, this is the shit. Like, why did they not teach me this in school? Maybe they were trying to. I just wasn't programmed to understand what was going on.
Mitch, no.
They were trying to, Mitch. Like, come on.
I don't know. We were in I went to liberal arts school. We learned how to learn, right? 1 point for me. But I remember something about it. I was like, damn, this is next level, to be able to like start to see how it'd be like, for example, why, let's say you have a dog and your dog whines at dinner and you're like, shut up, dog, I'm trying to eat. But then it just whines more and it doesn't listen to you. It's like, that's a system, because you don't understand it. You're just looking at, I'm going to yell at my dog whenever it whines. Wow. Not realizing the system is the dog wants attention. So even if you're saying, shut up, dog, that it ends up that dog is receiving the attention and it's going to keep whining. It's like, there's like feedback loops that you can't see. But as soon as I started having TechnoTutor, building the system of vocabulary within me, I started being like, holy shit, like this is cool. Like I can actually start to see these feedback loops in my environment, and how my starting point and what I say to other people and how I listen to other people and the feedback I give and get from the environment, like that's how you can actually start to open up and basically create a whole system. So now, like in our house, for example, Jess and I have like this whole system that keeps our house, like our like property alive. For example, we have like 15 different plants. We have a puppy. We have all different food. We have all these different things going every day. So we have like checklists and stuff, but then it becomes automated. So what we're doing as the world system is collapsing and fucked up and everyone's getting fucked over by it, we're like, how do we take responsibility for the system that is, one, our relationship, two, our house and our community, and then three, it's like the larger community, which is then the system that is, I mean, this podcast is a system. Every Sunday we record, every Tuesday it goes out, every time. I mean, holidays, whatever, it varies, but it's like, that's a consistent system. Our local meetup here, like every other week, we host a meetup and we bring in entrepreneurs and like-minded people to network and build value in the community. So it's like, that is that systematic thinking that is required. Because if you can't process that, you will be a slave forever. Point blank.
You know, that's a cool point that you made about like the feedback loops and being able to see all of that as opposed to that one-on-one, because that really ties in nicely with like what Cameron was saying earlier about the analog, where it's like you have all of that information available to you versus just like the way I see analog versus digital is like digital is that polarity. It's either yes or no. It's like it has to be this extreme or that extreme versus analog is exploring everything that is in between that and finding really well it could get
It's
into
like
that,
you know, like no more male, no more female. It's more like male LGBT, the entire alphabet, dude.
it's
not just
all
A
of
and
that.
Z.
It's all of that. No. But just in understanding things, like being able to explore things,
Right? Like
and
why
your
stop
understanding.
at 70 genders? Like why don't we just keep going? Analog.
Well,
dude.
and within that, it's like that you can then find the equilibrium that's actually best for all.
Yeah.
And that's like the point to find, but you can't necessarily find that in the ones and zeros. It's like exploring the different expressions that something can take. And then you find, okay, yep, that's the best one. Cool. Or you fail a bunch. You're like, okay, that's not working. Okay. Oh, but that one worked. And then it's like you build then from there and you keep building on reality and what's here instead of some bullshit mind thing where you're like, oh, the perfect triangle is out there. And okay, if I just can think about that enough and manifest it in my reality, then I prove that energy is, you know, I'm creating with energy. And it's like, no, you actually just deal with what's here. And then you just take responsibility for it. And then you know, do a little more, a little more, a little more, and a little more. And the next thing you know, it's like, holy shit, we've actually like accumulated something here that's like substantial. Then it takes on a life of its own, kind of like self-perfected. So I remember Asif and I, we would just talk. And then I talk with Drake. And I talked with Cameron and then Kian. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, we should record this shit. And then it turned into the Hangout. And then it's like that built. And then more people came in. And then they start sharing with people. It's like, whoa.
And then we made that relationships, why your relationships are fucked. And then that's what became the podcast. Right?
Yeah,
that's what became
are fucked, and you should watch that video.
Oh, and also you should smash that like button and you should share this video.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to say all that. I someone told me I should say that in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah, and leave 5 to 10 comments.
Yeah,
leave 5 to 1,000 comments, please.
Any number in between.
I don't have anything better to do than to read fucking comments.
So that's the big lie. Your reaction initially, and I feel like we all had this to whatever degree. It's like we could create a system that actually provides for everybody. And this is the beautiful proof that you exist as information, as words. It's like you have all this information in you that was put into you from your parents being like, that's just the way the world is. All you can do is give money and donate to charity and sponsor a kid for $1 a month. And then you'll get a picture of them on your fucking fridge. Did you guys ever do that? Your parents ever do that?
My grandmother loved that thing.
There you go. Mitchell?
It's like collector cards. Yeah, of course. It's like, look how many happy smiling faces there are.
You get like baseball cards of like the different kids in the village.
I'll trade you.
Hey, I'll trade you an Mbagwe for a BB.
See how fucking crazy that is? Anyways, so the point is, holy shit, that's so funny. I'm glad I brought that up. That everybody knows about that. So it's like,
isn't it, though, it's like it's actually laughable.
Yes,
but lots of people do it.
Yeah,
like for $1 a month, I can change.
We all know life. It's so fucking like it's a joke. It's like I was making this joke. I was like, I wonder, because when everything was frozen and we couldn't have water here in Texas, I'm like, I wonder if there's like some African in Starbucks in Africa buying one of those ethos water bottles, like where it's like, we'll donate, when you buy this bottle, we'll donate one to a Texan in need. You know what I mean? It's just like, you really think that that's how it works?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people do it. It's so dumb, and we all know it's dumb, but people do it, and they actually think that it's like they look at.
Well, it's
kind
like
of a genius business plan if you have no integrity.
It is, and because it's like those energy points, and you want to collect them because we've all been impulsive, like, ooh, reward, and I feel good.
How much you want to bet there's somebody who has got like just a whole wall covered of them, and like, these are all of the people I have saved.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
for only $100 a month, I'm helping 100 kids.
Wait, so you've been to my grandmother's room?
Okay, here's like a sort of futuristic Patreon sort of thing, right? Someone's going to do this, where it's like, you, instead of having Patreons, instead what you do is you donate to individual like poor families.
oh, it's like savior.
But what they do is they have to pray to you.
Oh,
Jesus.
So you have like a video chat or whatever every week where you're like their God, and they just sit there and worship you and praise your name and so forth. And then you give out, it's like super chats, like you give them some extras, like if they're like there's someone whipping themselves and stuff, you know, and you're like, yes, my child, yes.
You're like, look, I'm pretending.
That'll make so much money, I guarantee you.
I'm pretending this cracker is you. You're like, yes. $5 your worth. So in terms of where you're going to find the conflict is you have all this body of information that we all experienced, our parents or whoever in our environment, putting all these fucking kids on their fridge. We're like, holy shit, that's actually we can make a difference with as little as $1 a month or whatever, right?
Like,
We're
okay,
like,
why don't you just live off $1 a month?
right, exactly.
Why don't you just spend $1 on food a day?
Right.
Like, imagine how retarded you have to be to think you're making a difference. And you're like, you didn't.
But Cameron, $1 goes a long way.
Family for $5.
$1 goes a long way.
They live in a different currency, Cameron. $1 could
spend like $5 on extra cane sauce from like Raising Cane's. You know what I mean? Just because I want to get extra sloppy on my chicken tender. And you want to pretend like these people are eating their whole family for a day for $5? They're not eating Raising Cane's.
Raising Cane's.
They're not.
What the fuck that is?
It's like Chick-fil-A for Texas people.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So for all y'all who are reacting to this, this is the solution. Join TechnoTutor and help us educate all these people so that they can actually, one, understand how the world works, and then expand their vocabulary so that they can see the opportunity that's in front of them and create systems to be then self-sustaining. So that's one. Two, we need to now start looking at real economic solutions. And you get there then through three, which is politics. And looking at, it's like, I love when people are just like complaining about government. It's like, would you be willing to stand in their fucking shoes? Mm-hmm. No. Well, I wouldn't be a politician. It's like, okay, well, you're the fucking problem. And so that's the solution. So we can joke about this stuff of collector cards of kids in Africa or whatever. What's up, Ken?
Yeah,
Joel, our first.
Bruce. Holy that.
What a good
Christine.
What is going on?
What is happening? Oh my God.
And then you're listening the whole time.
And you got Justin. You got like a whole
There's a lot going on right now.
What are you guys doing?
This is not a cult.
I don't know. It looks kind of like.
We just came to say hi. That's all.
Hold on.
Hey.
Okay, you can't just come in and say hi.
Oh, wait. Can't hear you.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Wait. Oh.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now that you're here, you give us a golden opportunity. Okay. Can you each introduce yourself to everybody and then just say like why you're a part of Self-Perfected and just give a little quick testimonial thing about what's been going on? We already know.
Start us up.
Don't pretend like we don't know.
There we go.
Not myself. Okay, fine.
Go last, Ken.
Yeah. How
I'll go
about
last.
Joel?
Okay.
Don't you have like a
Joel.
car to crash or something, Ken?
My name is Joel. I'm a part of the TechnoTutor business, and this is actually how we're gonna bring heaven on earth. So, what's a better mission than that, right?
Where are you from?
So I'm from Montreal. Moved around a lot, like from Ontario originally, like near Matheson, like these really small towns.
And your phone number?
Oh yeah. So I'll give you the GPS coordinates if you guys want. Just contact me directly. yeah, so just kind of grew up like on a, the farms, like the quality food and stuff, and kind of seeing a lot of the problems coming up in society now. And yeah, I just couldn't be happier to actually like be a part of this and like see that there's actually real solutions out here that people can apply and have results with. So
Cool. Nice.
yeah.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, yeah, my name's Bruce. I'm a local distributor for TechnoTutor as well, and a member of Self Perfected and various other groups that we're part of. And why am I here? Well, where else is worth being? We do the real things here. We talk about the real things. We don't avoid topics. We dive right in and we deal with it. And yeah, I'm like Joel said, we're creating heaven on earth. That's what the big goal is. Create a world that's best for all, and that's what we do.
Chris, your background, like, because I know a little bit about you. Obviously, we talk, right?
Yeah.
But your background is kind of coming from like sort of an anarchist, sort of like anti-politics sort of thing, right?
Yep.
Hippie. It's called hippie.
Whatever you want to call it. But
Sure. Yeah.
can you give a little insight in terms of how you look at things in terms of that shift?
Yeah. I talked about this a little bit on one of the Self-Perfected hangouts, but basically, like, I grew up Christian and then totally rebelled against that idea as I got older. And like, I wanted something that was real, and I saw in spirituality something that I thought was real. But over time, it became obvious to me that it was just another version of what I had already been doing. And so at that point, I was questioning, like, okay, well, if this isn't real either, is there anything real out there? What can I do now? Because like option 1 didn't work, option 2 didn't work, and now is there an option 3? And as I got involved with Self Perfected and with the other things that we're doing, particularly with TechnoTutor, this is real. This is like actually facing your bullshit and changing yourself on a fundamental level. And so nothing else out there is doing that, because the solutions, quote unquote, that everybody else is talking about don't require personal change. All they require is a certain litany, a certain like code word. And now you're supposed to suddenly be different because you know the code word.
Amen.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's such a good point. Thanks for sharing that.
And Bruce is from Manitoba, and he drove all the way here 24 hours just to see us. Well, no, maybe not just to see us.
For the
Not
Americans
that special,
watching, it's just Canada. You don't need to know the different.
I can't translate it into miles in my head, but it's 2,222 kilometers away from here.
Wow.
And so
awesome.
Bruce is in a half squat right now, so respect to Bruce to be able to drop spells on us. And
Wall sit all the way.
Christine.
Yes.
come closer.
Christine. I'm Christine. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I'm a part of the Self Perfected group. Well, first of all, it's the best group on earth and on Facebook. And
Yeah.
like we've said, it's just creating real fundamental change on all levels. The utmost of taking personal responsibility.
Mhm.
Like we said, facing your shit, being self-honest, and really just like finding real solutions to the problems that we're literally facing right now on this earth. So if you're looking for solutions, like this is the group to be a part of and to create real change in like our most like important areas of life, starting with like education.
What's your background, Christine?
Background?
Yeah.
Like career-wise?
Yeah, like is you're a naturopath or what
No,
is-
a nutrition. So actually,
saying the wrong word.
nutritionist, holistic
Thank you.
nutritionist.
Yeah.
So actually, this is why I got like so involved, is because holistic nutrition looks like looking at the root cause of like a health problem, and TechnoTutor does exactly that for your own personal programming. So yeah, if you want to take real change, you got to look at what the root cause of the problem is to change your starting point and get a different outcome. So that's exactly what Self Perfected helps you do. That's exactly what TechnoTutor helps you to do, amongst some of the other things that we do in part of this process.
All of y'all are doing DIP.
Yes.
Yep.
So Christine, she had planned to come spend a weekend with her family. She's Toronto, about 5 hours away, and she decided, like, she's so committed to developing herself in order to be able to share these tools effectively and to support as many people as possible. She's decided to stay another week
Oh, nice.
just directly with spending time, me and Kian, and developing herself in that regard, which is really
That's
cool.
awesome.
And Justin, you're part of Self-Perfected. Come say something.
That's awesome.
Hey,
Yes,
Justin.
I am. Hi, I
What's up,
am.
Justin?
I am indeed part of Self-Perfected, as Christine said, one of the best groups, the best group in the world. The accountability, the realness, the fun at the same time. So it's a nice weaving, a nice balance. And TechnoTutor, what is something that I've been using for a little while now, and come to realize just by observing like how things have gone since starting, it's a crucial tool. And I think like the thing that got me hooked on the idea long ago was that the fact that you have a way now of exercising the part of your brain that goes and retrieves the information that is imprinted when you come across that information. Your brain records it, but now you're going, the difficulty is accessing it.
Nice.
And this exercises the ability to do that. Well, that's just going to cascade into everything. So, okay, great that it comes through vocabulary, but that's even better because now I can express myself better and I can hold my own in situations that normally I would have gone, I don't know what to say.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And then last but not least,
Yeah.
What is there somebody else? Who,
Right here. What up, guys? So I'm Kian. If you want to know my full story, just go back to Origins. It's in the
First episode.
podcast. First
Yeah.
episode number 1. But Asif, Mitchell, myself, and one other person created Self-Perfected, and Drake and Cameron really came into the mix, which made it amazing. But the reason why we're really doing this is we realized that our lives sucked. We used tools. They helped us. We think we should share it with other people because their lives suck. And if you look at your life, it probably sucks. Simple as that, right?
Bells.
So
got me, dude.
if you're willing to be honest about it, like, look at what you want, look at where you are. Are you really making progress towards that? So I was struggling where I was for many years. And then we met through a club called GIN, Global Information Network. I got introduced to TechnoTutor. I used it for myself, got a lot of benefit. Later on, became a distributor with the company, and that's why we're here today. We've been having like a lot of fun recently. Last night we had a party at our house for all of our distributors and their partners, which is hella tight. But we did it because Christine came down and we're like, let's engross everyone into this environment, right, to the highest level, make sure she gets the best benefit out of it. So we had a bunch of local people, including Joel from 2 hours away, just came last minute. Bruce was already popping by the city, so he's like, all right, I'm gonna come by. And then Christine, obviously from 4 hours away, she drove. She was coming to visit family, but then we turned it into kind of like a fun business event, the whole thing all together. So we've just been having like a lot of fun. Tonight we're having people over who are client users, random people as well. And it's just really great. So what I'm really seeing Self-Perfected, the purpose of why we're doing it is we just want to share this with everyone in the world out there, and whoever's willing to hear it and who can hear it, we're looking to work with you so we can actually change the system, because a lot of people are suffering today and they don't need to be. So that's why I'm doing this.
On theme.
Wow. It's almost like you were listening to everything we were saying, even though I know you guys just walked in the room.
Well, yeah. I listened to all the podcasts, but I wasn't eavesdropping on this
But
one.
you see what I mean? Like, that's just, we're all speaking the same language. So, everyone says like, oh, that sounds like a cult. I mean, you guys aren't doing any goat sacrificing or anything weird over there, right? Just like hanging out, right? Oh, okay.
No,
Oh,
not so
We might shave our heads later, but I don't know.
Exactly. It's not a TechnoTutor thing. It's more like a Canada thing. So don't worry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Coffee beans. Sacrifice a few coffee beans.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Plants. We're killing off the plants. Legumes.
All right. Well, we'll have fun. We got some more fisting to do over here.
Yeah, we just wanted to say hi, but I thought it'd be fun to crash this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's
I
go.
really-
Appreciate it. You can go now. We have important things to talk about now.
See you guys later.
My legs are burning anyway.
All right. Have fun.
Wait for me to shave your heads, right?
And for the sacrifice.
So there you go. See, that's how we roll. We just say whatever and do whatever, and we're not worried about everything has to be a certain way. I was making a joke because we were on a meeting before the podcast, before we started recording, and I was explaining to the people on Abby, I'm like, we don't decide what we're going to talk about on here until it actually happens. Right. Until we're here and we're like, what should we talk about? And we look at what we could say, but we always bring it back to the same principles. So when you're clear on your starting point, you're clear on your principles, and you can think and process things, you don't need to come up with all kinds of perfect plans, perfect in that sense, where it's like, because it's going to change anyway. Something's going to happen. People are going to walk in the door, and you have to be flexible and not be like, oh no, I need to say this now. That if we're in a world where everything is starting to collapse and you don't even know what jobs are going to be available in 10 years, that's the most important skill. So you could see all the people in there that were just saying hi, they're all using TechnoTutor. Right?
Yeah,
they're not used to speaking on, videos and things like that.
Right. It's so funny because like the midway of the glass, like, so you have the door, right? And it's all glass. And the middle of it, like the middle third is kind of glazed so you can't see. So it was literally Kian. He dropped to his knees and was like, and I was like, oh shit. And he's like, can I go? I'm like, yeah, okay. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then just one after the other, they all kept going on. But there's a really good point in what Kian said. And, we make a lot of assumptions about people because we understand the world that we live in. You can't have a great life here, especially now. That's why you said your life probably sucks too. No, we're not saying every fucking day it's like awful and you wish you like, that's not probably. But I'm trying to catch the people who are like, yeah, things are pretty good. Yeah. We're talking about what your life could be like.
Yeah.
Right. So the point is understanding that what does it mean, a system of lack? The big lie, right? Everybody thinks that if they just keep making money, they're going to get what they want. Everybody thinks that if they just keep buying stuff, they're going to feel right. Everybody thinks that just over time, they're going to mature. Just time will go by and then I'll get what I want. Like I'll find my partner. How is that turning out? You guys are seeing it a bunch now, right? Because they're doing this. You're seeing the 30-year-old, 40-year-old people, the woman who wanted kids never got kids, or the man who wanted a partner never get. Like it's sad.
Yeah, honestly. I see so many guys these days, 35, 40 years old, and they just wish they had kids so they had someone to share their Star Wars toy collection with. It's just really sad.
But seriously, it's like these this world that we are living in by design has to make you feel worthless. Has to make you a slave so that there are people who can benefit from it. The people who going back to Cameron's point about why does the money system exist the way it does? Why don't we just keep printing money? There's an artificial or arbitrary mechanism called inflation, for example, that just makes sure that the people at the top, like it's a closed system that no matter what you do, if you just try to make it in the system, it's just going to support the people at the top more and more and more and more. And that was put in place by people.
And they put money into the system, not when people starve, but when their businesses start to collapse, like when their investments start to have problems. That's when they put money into the system. So, and does it cause inflation according to the current rules? In many cases, yes. But it just shows it's not because that's not the real reason. They don't actually care that they don't want to cause inflation. Their point is they want to make sure, you made this point earlier about a system that takes care of everybody, right? Isn't that what a business is for somebody who has a business, right? Who's a shareholder? They have a system that takes care of them. So the very fact that you think, well, we can't have a system that takes care of everybody, you're thinking like a slave. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, if you live in the first world, up until, let's say in Texas, just the other day, the system was taking care of you. And now all the power's back on, so everyone's okay now, right? But what I mean is like, if you're in a city where there's grocery stores, like the system is taking care of you. It's just doing it at the expense of the environment, nature, and lots of other people. So all you're really saying is, no, I just want the system to take care of me. If I have to do anything of my own to contribute, then I'm not going to do anything. So there can't be a system that takes care of everybody. So it doesn't mean you have to give up and be and see the fear people have is, oh, I'm going to be like, your government's going to tell me what job to do, and I'm going to have to be an architect when my real passion is to be a lawyer, and I don't want, and it's like, that's already the fucking world we live in. It's just not the government telling you to do it. It's market forces and the education that you received and all this other bullshit. Like all the fears that people have about living in a communist dictatorship stuff, it's like already the case. Could it get worse? Absolutely. But it's not going to get worse by changing the system. It's going to get worse by keeping it the same. Like just letting things continue. And it's been really fascinating over the past 4 years because now Trump's out of office and so forth, right? And I was looking at everything, and it's so funny because right before Trump lost, did he lose? Whatever. He's not the president, okay? Right before that occurred, it was like all the Republicans, like the main, the movement of information, okay? It was like that side was saying the Democratic Party is going to collapse once Trump's out of office because they're not going to have anything to talk about. And it's like they were all looking at it as the collapse of the Democrat side. When in fact, what I've seen is just the opposite. And what's interesting about it is the Republican side has the least principles. Think about that. And that's coming from somebody who questions all the Black Lives Matter, all that stuff, right? I don't agree with any of that bullshit, right? I want real solutions that are best for everybody. But it's like they don't actually stand for anything. The reason why most people are Republicans is because they're Christian.
Yeah.
And they have a decent job and they don't want to pay higher taxes. They're middle class. Like they don't actually care.
Yeah.
Right. And they justifying. So here's my point. I'm not saying there aren't things within conservatism and being Republican and so forth that are of value because you investigate all things, keep what's best. That's one of our principles. But if you look at it, which side is saying they actively want to make things better?
The Democratic side.
Like whether they're doing it properly or not, they're at least saying, hey, let's take a risk. Let's change things. Let's get better. Whereas the other side is saying, no, let's just keep everything the same. That is not tenable. You see, like it can't stay the same. Like you're literally arguing for something that's not possible. The problem is because you're arguing for that, you're holding the other side in place. So the only thing that represents change from the mainstream is just a bunch of crazy people who just literally want a communist dictatorship. So by your unwillingness to change, you're giving them all the power because the people who want to change have way more fucking energy. They're like, let's actually do something. Because you can't, think about it. How can you put energy into staying the same?
Oh.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So it's like, they're like, well, at least, the Trump lost the election, but you don't see Republicans out in the streets and everything. I mean, see, we're better than the other side. It's like, but that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that why they're getting their way? Now, is the solution to go out in the streets? No. But you can take the point of they actually are willing to do something.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating about it is then you watched that one day where barely anything fucking happened. And then they act like it was the Republicans who are trying to take over it's like they just reversed the whole narrative right on everybody. So it's like, see, so even the idea of everyone sitting at home going, see, but at least Republicans aren't the ones out there causing violence in the streets. The mainstream media was like, haha, watch this. We'll make it look like you are. And you can't do anything. And what are you going to do? Go out in the streets and protest it? Oh, well, you're a terrorist. Like you can't. You're not.
Right.
Do you see like how the whole thing, it's like all informational warfare. None of it's real. Right.
Wars.
And what's fascinating? Jess was sending us that message earlier today, talking about you guys were looking at houses and so forth. And she was saying that there was some people and they were talking about all the murders that were happening. It's gone up like maybe you can talk about that. I thought that was such an incredible point that she was talking about.
Yeah, so one of our friends was telling us that she's very close with some lady in the police department of Bloomington, which is the city right south of Minneapolis. It's basically the same thing. And over the past 12 years, there would be like a handful of homicides every year, like less than 5 in a year. And since April, May of last year, there have been over 86 or 87 homicides. So huge percent increase. Wow. And To be completely blunt, a lot of it is kids being killed by their parents because they're stuck at home and they have abusive parents.
Holy
So while all
shit.
of you are advocating for stay home, stay safe, what the fuck is that kid supposed to do?
Yeah.
So think about that.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing I was looking at too, is when it comes to the context of TechnoTutor, obviously as parents, we're not going to put our kids in school, but we understand that the level of programming some people are at, it's in some context a better situation
Yes.
than like forcing them to stay at
Yeah.
home where they can't cope because the parent can't go to work. It's not a tenable situation, but at least they can have TechnoTutor and undo the brainwashing and not get brainwashed by the school to be a fucking retard.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not that we're saying, you have to look at the context of your situation and whether you can practically make it work. So in that situation, the parent ought to consider how they can do something where they can get themselves out of the need to have a job, work with the tools, let go of a lot of that programming, which is why you hate your kids. Right. He's pointing out that I'm using the word tenable quite a bit. Now it's becoming untenable for me to say the word.
It was only 2 times. But, so this is where I gotta call him my boy Jesus. He says, Drake, can you give me a
God said. Go ahead.
So going back to the point where you will see within yourself that it's actually information within you that competes, and then you feel conflicted, where there's all the bullshit that you got programmed with in regards to how the system works as you were a child, and that's like stored inside of you. So then when you hear something like equal money system, provide for everybody, have basic needs met for everybody, change the system, money equal value of life versus value of whatever, productivity, self-interest, whatever. It clashes against the information that's inside of you. And like Mitchell said, he said, it's a lack of imagination. Because where does imagination come from?
Your vocabulary that got programmed into you primarily in the first 7 years of your life.
Exactly. And what Justin was saying was pretty cool. He's saying it's the way that you access the information that got programmed into you in the first 7 years. TechnoTutor. So the point is, Jesus. He says, unless you become like children again, you're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? It means that if you were to tell a child total bullshit, like we live in a system of lack and that's just the way things are, and that's like the reality. That's the reality of things, right? They'll believe it. And they will create that in the world. So why not program them to create something new by first programming yourself? There's only one way to do it. And you can goof and gaff and schloof and schlaff all you want, that there's many different ways of doing it. But why the fuck haven't you made a difference? Why haven't you come to the conclusion that this is actually about being part of a group and not being a fucking lone wolf? Everybody wants to do their own thing, right? Same thing with me. But because I was using the holy trifecta, TechnoTutor, writing, and relationships, talking to these guys and other people, I realized, oh, now I see why my life kind of sucks. I don't know how to give to other people, so I'm not getting from other people. I'm just trying to suck everybody dry, whether it be with money or feelings or whatever. In every case of it. My point being that I realized that I had the same reaction when I was hearing about equal money system, all that stuff, but I turned away from it. I was like, this stuff is all weird. Like, let me just try to use this thing to make money, right? But right, but after I did that, I was like, oh, now I can focus on more. Now I can focus on what's beyond just making money. Like, how do I, because that's not just what I'm here for. So that within itself requires a certain level of education, that there's going to be, you have to have the depth of vision to know or to understand that the best way to get is to give. It's a weird concept.
But you got to know what we mean by giving, because it's not just give all your money to fucking homeless people or collect those donations to Haiti cards. It's like real giving, like giving real solutions that fundamentally support people.
There's an audio from Bernard about, oh man, is it that one about real love is to give? There's one where he talks about the law of attraction and makes this point that law of attraction is people trying to get before they give. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't remember which audio it is.
I think it's Revenge of the Ego, no?
Is it Revenge of the Ego?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Because just now, oh no, he makes a different point. Because
Yeah.
just now you give and you don't get.
That's
Pretty good.
exactly
That's
the
pretty good.
But
Kind of a little
point
Italian.
being-
Yeah.
The point being, it's like, what is the law of attraction? If you think about the way the average person is thinking about it, it's like I can just imagine what I want and it's going to come to me.
Mhm.
And we've talked about this many times. Like if you want a Ferrari, somebody has to make the Ferrari. So somebody has to create it. And if nobody wanted to go to work because they were a millionaire, then they wouldn't make the Ferrari or the $500 donut. So if you're using law of attraction to get donuts, who's going to make the donuts? Right. So in other words, you're trying to take, you didn't give. You didn't give. At the very least, all you have to give, this is really what we're saying. All you have to give is the consent of saying we can have equal money system. We can have a system where the value of money is life, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with everyone having their needs met. At the very least, that's what you can do. And change yourself, not just bullshit yourself, but really find all the points that would make you actually interfere with that. But to be a person who can live in that world and exist in that world and therefore have everything come to you. Why would you study the law of attraction where you're going to get something come to you magically without giving anything? And then also say, we can't create a world where everybody has what they need, because that would require a physical system to actually do it. You just want to take what's already here, which was built by people who didn't use the law of attraction and don't give a fuck about you. And all they care about is money, and use the point of scarcity as a way to hold power. And you want to use that to essentially become them. Is that what you want to do? Or do you actually want to make the world better for everybody? So there's no children that are starving. No children are being abused by their parents. The parents don't even want to abuse their kids. That would be a loving world.
Yeah.
That would be the world where you don't have to sacrifice to give. Because right now in a system based on lack, giving is sacrificing.
Exactly. Right. Where you can do something like this, that what you're giving to a human being is the ability to educate themselves, which is creating a new, you're creating greater value than it previously existed. That's abundance. The last point that I want to be able to make is Christine. And the reason why Christine is a great example is because she proves that nobody has the excuse of, oh, but I don't know business. I don't know how to sell. Every fucking day. She's like, she knows absolutely nothing. That's why she's spending an extra week here than she had planned. Because she saw the purpose point. There's nothing that makes any sense to do other than this. But I've avoided business my entire life. I don't believe I can sell. I think I'm going to totally fail at this. But I'm going to try anyways. And I'll tell you, because we have a tool that actually can change the human being right off the bat. I was like, Christine, let's do a little role play. Okay. She had a phone call. She was like, oh my God, it went amazingly. And she told me the details of it. I'm like, dude, that shit that you're talking about right now, I learned that like last month, 2 months ago, right? Right. And we're all kind of learning at the same time. Christine's a great example of somebody who didn't accept any excuses, limitations. Cameron made a great point of, yeah, you don't get to just believe that not changing is going to help you. It's not going to help you in any way. So why not change into a human being that is doing something that requires the utmost from them? You cannot use the excuse of I don't know how or I've never done it before, because we have the ultimate tools of change. Ultimate being the final point. There is nothing more than this. It goes down to the most fundamental level and it changes you. And when I say it changes you, you do it for yourself. There's the good news. Because then you don't have to enslave anybody. Right? You don't have to enslave anybody so that they have to life coach you forever, whatever. It's not the case. So the point is, nobody has any more excuses. You either do it or you don't. And if you're not going to do it, don't act like you're a good person. Don't convince yourself in your mind that because you're aware of the problem, you're a good person. Because you're not. But you should still like this video, subscribe, and eventually you're going to figure it out. Eventually, through having the conversations, using the tools, you're going to realize, oh shit, now I know why I'm not happy. It's because fucking no one's happy. And that's the
Like
world
actually
that we're
happy.
creating. Exactly. Like really actually fundamentally happy. And that's the world we've created. So why not create something new? Because we have that capability. Self-perfected.com. Facebook group. Mitchell. Okay. Mitchell is the resistance. Guys, if you haven't noticed, we talk about one thing and one thing only. So if you use this process for yourself, join the group. We can personally all guarantee.
Virtually.
Virtually, personally, 100% virtually guaranteed. With 2 fists in the air. You will change. No doubt. For sure. No doubt. All you have to do is use it.
Yeah.
So our recommendation is connect with us. Get in the Facebook group. Come on the Hangouts. Talk about a lot of cool shit. Buy some self-perfected wear, because that's your constant reminder of who you're here to become.
I have to order some more because I wear the shirts so much. So I have to wear these like stupid wolf shirts because they're dirty.
Yeah.
Also, we didn't have running water, so that's my excuse. Okay. And my hats are on the way. Have been assured. Okay. It was actually my problem that I haven't got them yet. So, but I'm looking forward to those. Is there anything new? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
I want to give a teaser. Like,
Oh,
what
shit, dude. Well, yeah. So we have those shirts. They will be by the next podcast.
Which
we will
shirts?
have them up.
Oh.
The new ones?
The new ones.
One that starts with the S and ends with an S.
Shit, dude.
Is
I thought it was a Z.
hold on. Is anybody on the podcast who's listening? Just answer. Oh, you can't answer. Fuck. Okay. Just say it out loud anyway. I will hear it. I have ways. But just speak more directly into your microphone. I'll hear you. But you hear with this little catchphrase that we say, right? You all know what I'm talking about, right? But anyways, we're gonna have something pretty badass on the store. I'm like looking forward to it, right?
It's BLM. It's BLM. We're making BLM shirts. Starts with an S, ends with an S.
It's a self-perfected mask. That's what it is.
Oh my god.
No, it's
Stay
not.
tuned for that.
No, it's gonna be really cool. So I guess we won't say it until we actually have it, and then you can one of you can wear it, and then yeah, that'll be cool. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it because we've been working on that one. So what else? Anything else? Next time.
Nice.
Next time.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.
See you next time.
I mean,